volunteers who are battling the wildfires to protect lives and property are also safe. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilman Steen? Councilman Triano? Here. Councilman Ballard?
Here.
Councilman Engstrom?
Here.
Councilman Zipperich?
Here.
Councilman Horgan?
Okay, we have a quorum. We have a number of proclamations as well as presentations this evening. And I suspect that the greater bulk of our attendees are because of that. And it's always great to have all of you. So you're most welcome, along with, I know Dr. Stone is here, as well as Dr. Rummage is here, yes. And so we are going to make presentations to both, actually, we believe in equality in Red Bank, so the presentations are going to be made both to the boys and the girls. But let's deal with what I would call the returning heroes. The young men from the middle school boys soccer team were here before, so they're returning heroes and conquerors. And we are so proud and so pleased with what you've done in terms of winning once again for the 4th year in a row the league champion for the boys soccer league in our area. So we are extraordinarily proud of all of you. I know that none of us on this council were able to play soccer in any shape or fashion like you guys may play, but we are so proud of you making us proud and making Red Bank look good. So without further ado, we'd like to make some presentations to the Red Bank Middle School boys soccer team champions. So in case I get the names wrong, he wants me to take the blame instead of him. So he's bigger than I am anyhow. So how about Andres Rojas Perez? Are you here? Congratulations. Leandro Capichito Lopez? Leandro? I remember you from last year.
Congratulations.
Alexander Flores Ramirez. Jorge Jiménez Carranza.
Good job.
Efren Garcia. I wish I had his hair. Michael Chico. Dylan Velasquez Jimenez. Jorge Mendez Castillo. Victor Perez Carrillo. Emmanuel Ponce Galicia.
Good job.
Thomas McBride.
Good job.
Alexis Campos Galindo.
Good job.
Perez. Brian Alvarez Zavala. Sebastian Rosas Elhua. Evan Flores Perez. Jason Monge Hernandez. Fernando Campos Juarez. Jimmy Romero Jimenez. David Acteopan. Richard Lezama. Derek Castro Perez. Arturo Flores. And last but not least, Carlos Guerra.
Mayor, can we have them all together so we can get a little photo? Or yeah, get back there. All of you, come on over. Fill up the bag. Come on over here. Come on, guys.
Go get behind them.
Yeah, you get right over here. You go behind all the seats.
Smallest ones first. In the front, yeah. Smallest guys in the front, and after we get everyone.
Smallest guys in the back.
Yeah, come on over here. All good?
Okay, taller guys in the back.
Councilwoman. All right. Big smiles. 1, 2. There we go.
That's good.
I'm not sure it'll go.
Not to be outdone, like I said, we believe in equality and of our middle school girls soccer team because for the first time they won the championship. So you guys really rock. And the reason I called the boys up first is because I wanted them to do it, but now you're gonna show them how real grace and style can be done in acceptance of diplomas. But more importantly, we want you back here next year because we know, based on what you did this year, that you can win again next year, and the following year, and the following year. So you're going to be back here for 4 years in a row. And if I don't win, that bet, he is going to have to buy me dinner for 4 years on this anniversary. So you're going to win. And I just want to say how incredibly proud all of us here, because we think that boys and girls have an equal opportunity and equal right to achieve greatness, and you guys have made us proud. So thank you very, very much. Leila Robles. You're number 1. You're leading them all. Congratulations. Good job. Dania Ramirez Sandoval. Good job. Sofia Menjivat Alas. Marveri Gregorio.
Noel Patak. Kimberly Romero Diaz. Emily Marin Mendez. Isabella Lopez. Guadalupe Lopez Ramirez. Fatima Linares. Jessica Gomez. Eva Garcia. Diana Benitez Garcia. She wants them all. I like that. Evelyn Alba Rodriguez. Melissa Tobar Lopez. Cristina Salinas Ortiz. Giselle Luna Soriano. Michelle Luna Soriano. You're twins. I knew it. They're twins. Congratulations.
Good job.
Michaela Jackson. Nashlin Cuellar Hernandez. And Luisa Ponte Puerta. Now we're going to get the group shot too? Or?
Stay
So-
right there.
We can get that shot and then bring all the boys in after, if that's okay?
Yeah, let's get them first. Okay. Oh.
You can have your seat. Go back. Okay, go back. All right, let's try and bunch it up just a little bit because it's a very, very wide picture. There we go. And electeds, if you go right behind them, there you go. That way we get you in the shot too. Perfect. All right. 1, 2, couple more. There we go. Perfect.
And you want to bring the boys?
Yes, boys and girls.
You know, the boys are going to go in a little.
Hopefully they follow them out.
All right, in the back row, just come down a little bit. Perfect.
Spielberg.
Perfect.
There we go. All right, big smiles. 1, 2, 3. There we go. There we go.
Money shot.
Congratulations.
Probably should have it like.
Dr. Rummage, would you like to, Dr. Rummage, would you like to come up and say a few words, or Mr. Pearson, either one, or?
Sure. Dr. Rummage has me. All good. Sure. Thank you. Thank you. I said this last night to many of the people that are here, but the adults in our school community talk about dreaming big. They talk about best self. We talk about RBB is BIA, Red Bank Borough is best in America. We also talk about lighting the way because we are a lighthouse district for the state of New Jersey. And it started with the adults saying those words and those phrases. But the reality is that what makes us dream big, what makes us the best in America, what enables us to light the way for other school districts in the state of New Jersey, and what enables us also to be our best self as a school district is our students, because they have bought in to what we are talking about. They are living it, they are breathing it in our hallways, in our classrooms, on the playing fields, and I couldn't be prouder or more happy to serve you guys, your families, and this great community of Red Bank. So thank you for the great honor that you bring to our schools, and it's a pleasure to work with you. Congratulations to you all.
Thank you.
If I may, I'd just like to thank the community and also the Borough Council for the outstanding support we received for our bond referendum last week as well. Just thrilled to death about that, to be able to put a new roof on our primary school, new windows in our middle school, and new HVAC units, infrastructure that we desperately need, and we will certainly be able to continue to dream big and be our best self because of that. So thank you all for your support.
Any members of the council wish to offer good words? Congratulations. Thank you. We will see you again next year. That's a challenge. And as for the boys, we have a challenge for the girls. We have to be a good challenge also. We'll see you again next year too, for the 5th year in a row. Okay? So you're welcome to stay.
Great job, coaches. Great coaching.
Great job, parents too, and caregivers, because they do their and they care for them. So thank you all.
Good night.
Just want to thank you guys for your support always and honoring our kids year after year. We really appreciate it. Thank you and have a good night.
Any members of the public have any comments regarding any agenda items, resolutions, or ordinances on this evening? If not, we'll move right on to the approval of the workshop minutes for October 2nd, 2019. Motion? Second? Second. All in favor? Any opposed? Approval of the regular meeting minutes of October 23rd, 2019. Motion? Second. All in favor? Any opposed? We'll move on to ordinances for public hearing and adoption. Ordinance 2019-69 is an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 94, Article 1, establishing and amending Section 64-9 concerning the cadet corps to remove the residency requirement for membership in the cadet corps. We have a number of young people who wish to join our cadet corps. Any members of the public wish to be heard on this ordinance amendment? If not, motion closed. Second. All in favor? Aye. Motion to adopt. Second. Second. Roll call.
Councilman Triano? Councilman Mallard?
Yes.
Councilman Yingstrom?
Yes.
Councilman Zimmerman?
Yes.
The ordinance is adopted. Next, we have the first reading for ordinance 2019-70, which is an ordinance that amends chapter 430 concerning licenses and permits of the borough's general ordinance to eliminate the citizenship requirement for business licenses. This ordinance will eliminate an archaic section that is there that's not even enforced, which will comply with federal and state law. The public hearing will be on November 26, 2019. Is there a motion to introduce? So moved. Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Triano?
Yes.
Councilman Mallard?
Yes.
Councilman Yingstrom?
Yes.
Councilman Zimmerman?
Yes.
The ordinance is introduced. The public hearing will be on November 26th at 6:30 p.m. Secondly, ordinance 2019-71, which is the ordinance that amends and supplements chapter 608 concerning streets and sidewalks relating to the placement of telecommunications facilities in the public rights of way pursuant to the public utilities law. Is there a motion to introduce? So moved. Second. Hello? No, second.
I'll second it, sure.
Okay. Is there a question on it?
Yeah, can we, just have a brief estimate? I know we talked about it at workshop, but can you just refresh my memory?
Sure. This ordinance concerns 5G, also known as small cells, by the telecom industry. So a lot of the wireless providers, such as Verizon Wireless, AT&T, they're all trying to race for the implementation of what's known as 5G technology. That's the next iteration of cell phone communication for voice and data. 5G cells will be placed on utility poles, monopoles, depending on the circumstances and what they're looking for, around the country. It's already started to roll out in a number of other cities around the country. So in order for us to get ahead of the process and to implement and ensure that regulations are in place for the time when they do come to us, so that we can regulate, enforce, and ensure that they're done to community standards, this ordinance would amend our code to give them some guidance and to give municipal employees some guidance on how to handle those applications. Everything from insurance, indemnification, hold harmlesses, to placement, where they can be placed, and what that placement might look like, in keeping with the certain characteristics of the neighborhoods and the zoning laws in effect.
It's regulated under the Federal Communications Act.
So how much control would we really have in location? I mean, if they said we need them here, here, and here, our ordinance may say you can't put them here, here, and here. Can we actually enforce that?
So we can, to the extent that this ordinance does that in certain places. So there are certain guidelines on where they can and cannot be in terms of rights of way, in terms of if there's already a utility pole that they have right-of-way approval for. There are some instances where already they've indicated they want to place them, but they're not in accordance with our ordinances. So they wouldn't be able to place them there when they make their application. There are aesthetic concerns that we can address as well. So there is some say where there really isn't as much say as in simply saying you can't have them at all, or to say that we want to restrict certain things that would fall under the FCC's purview with respect to bandwidth, frequencies, strengths, emissions, all of that. Defer to legal counsel who wants to add anything to that.
Well, generally speaking, obviously I'm not speaking as legal counsel, but we've had these in a lot of, as a matter of fact, just about every municipality because of technology changes. Municipality generally reserves the right to to have certain limitations, certain heights, locations, blocking of certain rights of way and stuff like that. So we do reserve site plan approval on certain matters, but some matters are particularly regulated by the Board of Public Utilities as well as the Federal Communications Act.
Remember, no contract has been finalized with
Yeah.
any utility at this time.
No, and I get it, we're trying to set the parameters when they do come to town, and we can have some say so as we put it, but I guess I'm not understanding like how far our jurisdiction carries. When the FCC can come in and say, I know Red Bank, you don't want it here and here, but for efficiency, we need it here and here, so.
The FCC is not going to do that.
In the first week, it says that it would be zoning just HBNB, MS, it's in here with the,
Yeah, the Municipal Land Use Act would still regulate location as well as height, setback, stuff like that. I mean, don't forget, Red Bank unfortunately missed the gate on this 30 years ago when we could have had regulations of cell towers in town to specifically mandate that they go on municipal properties. We would have gotten the income 30, 40 years ago. We never did that. So now private people on private buildings are getting the income from that, where most other municipalities are getting the income on these agreements.
And does this, is there any caveat in here that prevents them from crowding Red Bank with additional technologies? I mean, are they removing the 3G and the 4G, or is all that stuff still hanging on poles around town?
So 3G and 4G is a different technology, and most of those, they're less sporadic, they're not as frequent as the 5G cells, and most of them are not located on the utility poles, but rather on private properties where there's some sort of lease agreement for it. The 5G technology, because the purpose of it is to have more cells, more frequently located, provide bandwidth to provide the speeds, do require more prominent placement on these utility poles. So it would not be a trade-off. Verizon's 5G cells would take over. 3G is being phased out by the FCC at the end of 2020. So that technology will be obsolete by companies like Verizon and so on and so forth. They're selling that bandwidth to other companies. So it wouldn't be a replacement by Verizon. Somebody else would take over, for example, 3G. And they're still allowed to have that.
So this technology adds to what is currently mounted around town?
It's intended to replace, the companies like Verizon are intending to use this to replace. What they're doing is then selling their old spectrum, and other companies will use that spectrum for other things, whatever the FCC authorizes them to do.
So at some point, when we go to 6G, we're still gonna have 5G, 4G, and 3G
Probably not.
connected to, well,
We'd have to be phased.
there's an awful lot of copper lines that are, curled up and
Sure.
mounted to telephone poles at English Plaza still.
Sure, yeah.
So that's my concern, is are we going to be cluttered over a period of time in the future as technology changes? And I understand the need for technological changes, but I just want to make sure that, all of this stuff is mounted to, our utility poles, our buildings, and so on and so forth.
Question from the FCC.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, does that answer your questions? As best as we can, because we're not the SEC.
We're not alone in this transition, we're not the only town going.
Every town's going through it, yeah. Unless you have just cows in some places in Cumberland County or something like that. And even there, I think they're going through that.
The smart cows.
Smart cows, yeah. Okay, any other questions? If not, there's a motion in a second, all in favor? Okay, yeah, sure. Roll call.
Councilman Triviano?
Yes.
Councilman Ballard?
Yes.
Councilman Inkster?
Yes.
Councilman Zikri?
And again, the public hearing will be on November 26th. If any of the council people have additional questions, the Board of Public Utilities has an extraordinarily verbose explanation on this that I challenge us as non-electrical engineers to understand, but you're welcome to read it if you can't fall asleep something.
So is there a 5G for dummies?
Always there, 3 o'clock in the morning, you can read it, and I'll hear your snoring from across town.
Mayor, is there a 5G primer or something for dummies that, you know?
Michael, I'm trying to
share?
grasp 1G, let alone 5G.
So I at least try to wrap my brain around it.
Yeah, it's beyond me, my friend.
Yes,
Is there any documentation or, you know, summary or something of this new technology that can be shared with the council?
Yes, I'll resend the email I sent to you on September 6th with a number of links on.
Speak into the microphone, please, everybody.
Apologize, thank you. Yes, there's an email I sent September 6th to all of you. I'll resend that. It's got some links on background, policy, and legislative viewpoints as well.
Okay, sorry about that.
No problem.
Okay, let's move on to resolutions 19263, authorizing payment of bills amounting to $1,720,297.25. Motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? With respect to resolution 6B, C, D, E, F, and G, unless there's an objection, those could be moved en masse. We are accepting the retirement of Officer Fields and also appointing Officer Taylor Remus to replace him. And also the change order on 19-269 with respect to the White Street lot is, not White Street, English Plaza lot is an additional $2,000.
I have a quick question on that.
On G?
On G, yeah.
All right, so let's forget G for a second and go through D through F. Any objection to moving those en masse?
No, so moved.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Resolution 19269, authorizing a change order number 4 related to the contract with Seacoast Construction for the English Plaza White Streets streetscape improvements for an additional $2,000. A net zero net?
Yeah, because, and that's my question.
Oh, so why did they give me 2,000? Okay, so it's a net zero.
Yeah, but that's my question, because it looked like there was $2,000 in decreases, and then they moved the slab and charged us $2,000. So they wouldn't lose the $2,000 in decreases.
So typically what happens with projects like this is until the project is closed out, the final numbers aren't reconciled. So what might happen is that along the way, certain materials aren't needed or certain work isn't done.
Right.
And at the end, the engineers will finish out the closeout payment and we pay them whatever that final bill is. Usually less than what's authorized. Sometimes it's more, usually less than what's authorized. As they're doing that though, there's certain additions that happen. So rather than us authorizing more money now and then reducing it later, the engineers will do a net zero for the exact items that have been increased. They'll decrease other items that they know we're not going to use. Does that make sense?
No.
Okay.
Because, again, it looks like that there were materials that weren't used, so they didn't charge us for them. So we saved $2,000. And then there was a slab that was moved that cost $2,000.
So there are more things that will be reduced in the contract. So rather than the work of the slab cost $2,000, rather than do an increase in the change order for $2,000, and then later on when the contract is closed out, the engineers will reduce everything by whatever that amount is. They do a net zero, change order to account for that increase in material. So it's not that they didn't use 2,000, all of a sudden the other thing was 2,000. It was the engineers backed out of items in the contract for the exact amount of the increase, so we have a zero change order. At the end of the contract, when we do a closeout, there will be further reductions in the contract.
So in this particular case, why didn't we just save $2,000? Because isn't removing the slab like part of the process of construction?
No, that slab was a change order. It was an additional item that was not initially in the contract or the scope of work.
So what, there was just a slab laying there and they removed it?
It was-
I don't understand the process.
So when they're in the field, certain conditions that until they survey, they excavate, they do certain things, certain conditions were not known at the time of the bidding of the project. So when they bid and they say, in order to do this project, this is what we need to accomplish, that particular slab was not necessarily in that scope of work. Conditions in the field changed, or they necessitated some different work. For example, we discovered an underground storage tank in a certain location that we would not have known until we excavated. So those are change orders that we have to approve, or our engineer have approved and authorized and directed to be done.
So where did the slab come from? If, once they surveyed and gave us a projected price, where did the slab come from that they missed, that now has to be removed? Did it just appear? Was it not there? I don't understand. That's a big chunk of cement. How could you miss it and not include it in other drawings? That's what I'm not understanding.
Why don't we table this? Because my problem with change orders has been the same problem and never changes. Well, no pun intended. And Councilman Curley, who was on this council, had total distaste for change orders on public contracts, and he was right. Anytime that we have a change order on a public contract, I think it is incumbent on either the contractor or the engineer to do a 1 or 2 paragraph analysis that accompanies the request, not our administrator, because don't forget, this was a River Center project initially. And it has to be verified by the person and in layman's English, presented so it's a public document, and then we can move on.
Mayor, that document that you asked for was included and was in the workshop packet.
Oh, I wasn't at the workshop, but I'm looking at this letter here, and it's not really written in English, to be honest with you. It's in English, it's in engineering needs, that it doesn't make any sense what I'm looking at. I agree with Councilman Ballard that, the numbers just.
It just looks fishy that it's 2,000 degree to 2,000.
Councilman, it's not fishy because as I just explained, the increase was for $2,000. There was work that our engineers felt was necessary for this project. So they backed out other items that were not needed in the exact amount of the increase. So that way we don't have to authorize more money. Typically, if there's an expense beyond the initial contract award, you would need to do an additional authorization of funds. So rather than have an additional authorization of funds, we would have to encumber more money and simply reduce by the same amount of that increase all the other items in the contract that will be closed out later on towards the end.
So the order of the items happening is, it was an increase that was offset by a reduction in the
Correct.
budget, not the other way around.
That's exactly, it's the increase is what's happening first, and the engineers, so that you don't have to authorize more money, back out other items that they know are not going to be needed at that particular moment in time. So this is, for example, change order number 4. We've had 3 similar ones just like this, which were all $0 change orders, so that way the project can continue to move on without halting things and needing additional authorization. Those previous amounts that were reduced were things that the engineer knew this part of the project is done, we're not gonna need this, for example, PVC pipe, we're not gonna need this asphalt, paving's done. So I can reduce the asphalt that wasn't used based on the initial estimates. Does that make sense?
Actually, it logically it makes sense. I'm just not comfortable with it, and I'm not comfortable with voting on it right now, so, and I want to follow the mayor's lead and table this.
I think we're at a little bit of a disadvantage without having the juice going and meetings to explain satisfactorily to the mayor and Councilman Ballard as to what actually transpired in the project since they were
I know, it's a huge screen.
the streetscape improvements to the parking lots.
Any other questions?
I move the table, item G under resolution.
Is there a second? Okay. Motion on the tabling of G. Motion second. Roll call.
Councilman Tridiano? Sure.
Just give her time to
Councilman
think.
Ballard?
Yeah.
Yes.
Councilman Inger?
Yes.
Councilman Zabrowski?
Okay, it's tabled to the next meeting. Resolution,
That's not
I'm sorry.
that's not very good.
Resolution 19270 is a resolution providing for the combination of certain bond ordinances and determining the form and other details of offering $7,134,000 general obligation bonds consisting of $2,712,000 general improvement bond series 2019, $3,700,000 for water sewer utility bonds, and $722,000 for department utility bonds to Borough of Red Bank for the County of Monmouth, and providing for their sale. So this is a bond sale motion.
Quick question, Mayor.
Yes?
So the water utility bond, 3.7, will be repaid through the water utility fund, is that correct? Not in general?
Generally speaking, that's what we've been doing. Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, and the
Yeah.
same for the parking utility.
That is correct, it's just that they're lumped as one bond sale, yes, that makes no sense, so we don't have to incur three additional costs. Other than that question, is there a motion? Second.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Resolution 19271, authorizing a place-to-place transfer of blended retail distribution license, TSD Beverages LLC. Motion? So moved. Second. All in favor? Any opposed? Congratulations. Resolution 19272, resolution awarding a professional services contract to Stephen Pepper for financial accounting services. Motion?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Any opposed? Resolution 19273, rejecting all bids received for the replacement of the fire suppression system at the senior center and authorizing re-advertising and rebidding for the project. Motion?
I have a question. The bids there, so what we see is 3 bids, and I thought we bid that for $200,000. Is that correct? Then?
Sure, Council.
Was that the price for the senior center to replace the water suppression system? Wasn't that a bond for like $200,000 for fire suppression?
We put in about, I think it was $200,000 into the bond rush for building improvements. It wasn't just for the fire suppression system. But yes, the fire suppression system was included in that amount. For 2018, it was, I believe, 100-something thousand, and in the 2019, I believe, 200.
Okay, because one of the bids was $191,000, if I remember correctly off the top of my head. So that's, because I guess there's additional work that we're not seeing here. Like, why wouldn't that 191 be within the?
I thought the board said that they couldn't change the thermal footprint, so we can't do this type of system. We have to go back to the old system.
The issue was the ability to insulate the roof line and didn't really put in a wet system, and that is not possible.
So
Yeah, we can't do it.
the entire bid was faulty because there was additional work.
Well, no, we knew there was additional work. All we bid out was just the fire suppression, not the additional work. Another contractor would have to do the additional work. So these numbers are higher, are more than we can afford because of that additional cost.
And we never bid out the additional.
We haven't bid all that out yet. We need to know, this is the most expensive part right here. We need to know where the fire suppression system is going to land in terms of cost to make sure that we have enough money. And based on the spreadsheet that I sent for the workshop meeting, all the costs with at $191,000 exceeds our amount.
Okay.
And it's the engineer's estimate.
Correct.
And this pushes the senior center repair back even further.
Especially because
Okay.
A motion? So moved. Second.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Resolution 19274, authorizing acceptance of grant agreement between the Borough and County of Monmouth Department of Human Services. Motion?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Any opposed? Parks and Mayor Council members, first of all, I want to congratulate the Council President Eric, as well as my friend Council Member Kathy Morgan on your sterling for your election, continued service to the people of Red Bank, and dedication. So thank you for your friendship and dedication for all this. Michael?
Thank you, Mayor. Welcome, everyone. I only have one thing to report under finance. Our CFO, Peter O'Reilly, shared with me on November 7th, Moody's Investor Rating Group sent out a report updating our credit rating, or giving an update to to the credit analysis. I just want to quickly read to you what it said. Borough of Red Bank rated as an AA3, which for long-term bonds is very high. I think it's her third highest rating, and for short-term prime rate, we're in prime category 1 out of 3 prime categories. So I was very delighted to see that, and as you see on our agenda, we have some bond ordinances that, and it's a great time to go out and borrow money. The interest rates are so low, and with our great credit rating. It was good to see the Moody's rating us high. One of the credit sprints, we have satisfactory reserve position and our favorable location to New York City. So, factors that could lead to upgrades, strengthening of the borough's tax base and resident wealth and income, and material increase in reserves. So those are two of the things that the borough can do to help even increase our credit rating with Moody's and put us in a better borrowing position. So I just wanted to share that with the mayor council and the residents that we are in good financial position according to Moody's. Thank you.
Thank you. Ed?
Thanks, Mayor. Just quickly, I attended the middle school assembly today for World Kindness Day. Dr. Paul Wichanski, a motivational speaker with cerebral palsy, addressed the students and motivated them to be kind to those disabled and to achieve their goals. It was a pretty spectacular presentation, and the kids really, really enjoyed it. And several of the students, when I spoke to Dr. Romich earlier today, identified with Dr. Paul's presentation. Thanks.
Thank you, Ed. Eric?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to thank Major Hausinger, the Elks Lodge, our charter and middle school students, the scouts, the clergy, and all involved in our wonderful Veterans Day service. Special thanks to our DPU facility, our employees, our fire department, and our police department for their efforts behind the scenes in setting it up and keeping everybody safe. Some holiday events to note: the West Side tree lighting will be Saturday, December 7th at 6 p.m. Santa Calls will be December 11th and 12th here at Borough Hall. The home decorating contest will be judged on December 14th. And also Parks and Rec will be accepting coats, hats, gloves, jackets, and any other winter clothing between Thanksgiving and Christmas to give out to our local residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate.
No report.
Thank you, Kate. Number 8 is a request from Jamie Atkins to install a mural at 116 Chestnut Street with the written consent of the property owner. Motion. Second.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Request from Michael Green for membership in Liberty Host. Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Request from Giovanni Cervantes Aguirre for membership in Union Host. Motion.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Request from the following individuals for membership in the cadet corps of the fire department: Lucas Dingle, Colin McSorley, Jonathan Rivera, Alan Soto III, Salvatore Vitello, Jack Welsh, and Kevin Welsh. Motion.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Special events recommendation for approval: request from St. Anthony Paddle for their annual Our Lady of Guadalupe procession on December 12th, and request from the Friends of Clearwater to use Marine Park for the festival on August 16th, 2020. Motion.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any members of the public have any questions or comments regarding any matters? Ms. Burnham?
Quick learner. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Cindy Burnham, 71 Wallace Street. Mr. Shahadi, I'm addressing this to you.
That's not the way it works.
You'll address this meeting, I'll send it to you.
Oh,
And you have 5 minutes to speak and public comment, and questions will be addressed at the end.
yeah. Okay. Well, last Thursday, I became aware of the fact that the USDA was going to be testing our community garden for free. They test each plot, and you get the results instantaneously. So I was very excited about that. I called the USDA to try to get the date that they were coming, but they wouldn't give me any information. So I wrote to Mr. Shahadi, and I asked him, what he knew about it, and he knew nothing about it. But he wanted to know who I spoke to, so of course I passed on my information, my contact information, and I later that day found out that he had canceled the testing. So on Monday, I was told that he canceled the testing. And then I wrote again to him and I said, why did you cancel the testing? I think we owe it to the residents. You've got people over there that have had the same garden for 8 years. They've been feeding their children the vegetables, and you just can't leave them in limbo here. Yes, it's contaminated. And here's a free test. We should do it. But anyway, it wasn't done. Now I find out, that was Monday. Then Tuesday, I get called by the USDA saying that they're coming on the 22nd at 9:30. And they welcome gardeners to be there, and they're want to answer questions, any questions. They were very forthright, if that's the right word. And so I just wanted to know, is it on for the 22nd?
Thank you, Ms. Burton. So I know you've had discussions with the borough administrator on this by email, and perhaps he can shed some light on or respond to that.
Okay, thank you.
Your remarks conclude, Ms. Burton?
Pardon me?
She is included?
Yes.
It seems like you're still holding the microphone for more comments.
I'm just holding.
Okay, so your sequence of events, Ms. Burnham, is incorrect. You've been incorrect, and I corrected them by email several times. Your sequence of events and I'm sure your characterization of those events is also not correct. My last email to you on Tuesday, November 12th, so I'll repeat that because that's your question. Ms. Burnham, I have not canceled the free testing. So again, you keep asserting that I canceled the free testing. It was not canceled. Quote, the USDA representative canceled it after it was clarified that no official representative of the borough authorized the testing or was permitted to grant access to the property. The person that contacted the USDA did so without coordinating with the borough and without the authority to do so. Any access to that property for testing for legal reasons must be approved by this mayor and council by resolution. The DEP sent in an access agreement to do testing of our property. This mayor and council approved it. The USDA did not do that. The USDA understood that, which is why they canceled it. They were under the impression that the person that scheduled that testing was authorized to do so and was an official speaking on behalf of the borough. When it was clarified that the person that contacted them to schedule this was not an official acting with the capacity of the borough, they canceled that testing. Your comments have concluded, Ms. Burton. This is not a back and forth. I asked you, have you concluded?
Yes, but I wanted to say something.
Mayor?
That's your answer. Do you have a different topic?
No, but this person that I spoke to that's been in the garden, you know what? I'm a taxpayer.
Ms.
This
Burnham,
is the garden.
Ms. Burnham,
I want some answers for
You
this.
will have answers to it, but
I think he canceled it because I sent a letter.
Don't speculate on what anybody did.
Well, is
First
it
of
on
all,
for the 22nd? Can you answer that? You didn't answer that.
You said it was canceled. Did you not?
No, I said this week. They were supposed to come this week.
This is not a debate.
I know, but I'm just telling you, the USDA said they were coming this week.
All right, next.
It was
question.
canceled. Okay, so what I wanted to just say,
Next issue, anybody else?
are you just gonna blow me off?
Yeah, next issue.
Well, this stinks. This is non-transparent and this is very fishy.
Next issue, and then we'll.
And I want to know if the
Next
USDA
issue,
is
we'll
coming.
back up.
I want to know if the USDA is coming to do free testing. You owe it to the residents.
Next.
Suzanne Viscomi, 25 Cedar Street. My question is about a letter that was on the public board, docket number CO209-308. The CWA withdrew an issue and charges, and by withdrawing it, they did that because they, according to this letter, that there was an an agreement between the union and management that if anyone records a conversation or a meeting or whatnot, that a representative, the union members and or representatives will be notified. With that being said, in the spirit of transparency, has anybody in the past regarding, forget about the unions, but has any resident or public have been recorded without their knowledge? And going forward, do residents and the public have the same respect and, I guess, underlining understanding that if they are recorded, that they will be told before the record button is hit? And again, I'm asking this question in the spirit of transparency.
I have no idea what your question is.
Well, I mean, somebody accused somebody of recording the union without
Is it
permission.
a personnel matter then?
It's the union. My question isn't about the union. I'm saying this was public. So my question is, has anybody in the public that went to go visit or speak to anybody, administrated or not, were they ever recorded? Has this situation, if someone has been recorded without their knowledge, also, that's,
You went over a request, I have no idea.
I mean, well, can you at least?
You went over a request,
Oh,
I have
I
no
will,
idea.
but I have a question. I wasn't really done.
The answer is no, I don't know.
But what about my question, say, does the public or anyone else have the respect to be told if they're being recorded? Obviously, somebody recorded without telling the union as a, well, I mean, you don't know about this docket?
I do not, that's what I'm trying to tell you.
I'll give you a copy.
It's an administrative matter, personnel, we don't know about everything.
I hope you do. This is pretty
This is
damning.
not debate, the answer is no, you got your answer, so pull out an Oprah request.
I don't have to. It's in my hand. I can give it to you. You don't need an open request. I'll hand it to you. This is about transparency. This is said. If somebody's recording the union without their knowledge,
Just tell us.
Send an open request to my office.
I don't need it. It's in my hand.
Then you don't
Here.
need it.
I want answers. If I'm going to be recorded, if anybody else walks in this town hall is going to be recorded, I would like to know that. Because it happened to one person, it could happen to someone else.
Why didn't you say that?
I just said it.
Yeah.
In public. I'm recording in public. Look what happened to Councilman Art Murphy when someone recorded without their knowledge. He passed on his seat. That's sad. I don't record without people knowing. I always record in public. No one's ever accused me of recording not in public. And I hope that everybody else that walks into this town hall has the same respect. That's my point after reading that letter.
Susan, would you please present that document to the clerk?
Absolutely.
To add.
And so we will follow.
Next. Anybody? Yes, Steve.
Stephen Hecht, 135 Branch Avenue. I have had some concerns privately about the protocol for public commentary at council meetings since the new protocol was adopted, I believe, in January. I've just seen play out, irrespective of the details of the interchange, or lack of interchange a moment ago. I'd like to urge the council to re-examine the protocol that was adopted earlier this year or last year, which specifies that who's to be addressed, that there is to be no dialogue, and I would like to urge the council to re-examine that. Thank you.
And that's a legitimate comment. And I just want to clarify one thing that was not correct. That protocol has been adopted in January. That protocol was initially promulgated 3 years ago. And every year, January 1st, it is carried over. I obviously have some concerns about it myself, and I expressed those. And I've given a lot of liberal leeway to it. But that protocol was initially recommended by a previous council, it was adopted by a previous council. So what we did in January, we just carried it over this year, as we did last year, has been the protocol for 3 years. But I I hear you, and I think that there should be an opportunity for rebuttal and for follow-up. That's my personal opinion, and I will certainly lead the charge on that. Anybody else? Okay, we have need for an executive session? Okay, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you for coming.